those tapes exist. That's not how they're describing it now. Why? Because China told them not to, and the media were happy to comply. And, by the way, to downplay direct threats to this country from China, articulated out in the open clearly in print. Just last week, China's official news service warned ominously that it might cut off drug exports to the United States in order to intensify the epidemic and cause even more deaths here. Keep in mind that China makes 97% of the world's antibiotics. What would happen if they cut off the supply to this country? Many would die. So our country's greatest rival is denying reality about a plague they unleashed on the world and is then openly threatening to kill American citizens in our country. This is happening right now, but our news media are ignoring all of it, which tells you which side they're on. Stephen Mosher is president of the Population Research Institute and author of Bully of China, Why China's Dream is the New Threat to the World Order. He joins us tonight. Mr. Mosher, thanks so much for coming on. So speculate, if you would, why do you think the American news media are covering for China and obscuring its connection to this virus?
Well, I don't think they understand the nature of the Chinese Communist Party, first and foremost. You know, we once had a president who said, you can't fool all the people all the time, right? Well, the Chinese Communist Party believes it can fool all the people all the time, not only in China, but around the world as well. I mean, these are the people, Tucker, who invented brainwashing back in the 1930s. That was the Chinese Communist Party brainwashing. Xinao in Chinese means literally wash brain. They think they can wash the Chinese and the world brains free of the facts of the matter. The facts are that, of course, the epidemic began in the city of Wuhan, spread from there throughout China because of the mismanagement of the epidemic by the Chinese Communist Party. Do you know that in very early December, they locked down all the military bases in Wuhan and Hubei where they had an epidemic raging? Why? Because they wanted to make sure that the guys with the guns did not get sick, because that's how they stay in power. It was only weeks later they told the Chinese people. 5 million people by then had left Wuhan, not knowing, some of them, that they were carrying the virus, and they carried it to all parts of China and all parts of the world. This is a made-in-China epidemic. You know, calling it the Chinese coronavirus simply refers to its country of origin. But if there was ever an epidemic that deserved a country of origin label, it would be the made-in-China China coronavirus, or let's call it more properly, the made by the Chinese Communist Party coronavirus epidemic, because that's what it is.
So what you're saying is, as the virus began to explode in China, the Chinese leadership put political imperatives first in locking down the military, as you just said. How is that different from what our media are doing now? People are dying. World Health Organization declares it a pandemic, and their first concern is that you not be allowed to describe it accurately. I mean, my jaw's open.
Yeah, it really is a matter of putting politics first, and you would think that we would put transparency first, we'd put information and facts first,
Exactly.
we'd put curing people first. But why are some people in the United States putting politics first? I can understand why the Chinese Communist Party does that, because they've always done that. They held a meeting in January, the China National Health Commission, in which the head of the Health Commission said, our primary goal, he said, is to put politics first, which means protecting the Chinese Communist Party, to quarantine second, which means segregating from society people sick, and then maybe we'll find a cure. That was a distant third. We should have those in reverse order. We should do the cure finding, and we should do the transparency and quarantining people first. Politics should not even be a part of this, Tucker. We should all be, as Americans, working together to fight this crisis.
I agree. I want to ask you one brief question. The Chinese official daily, just a few days ago, threatened to shut off the supply of pharmaceuticals and medicine to the United States in the hope that it would kill millions of Americans, and I think that it would if that were to happen. Should we take that threat seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. China has as its strategic plan unrestricted warfare against the United States across all domains, except the kinetic. I mean, we're not shooting bullets at each other, but in all other domains, right, intellectual property and so forth, they're in competition with us. They want to be number one. They want to replace us. And so we have to see every dependency upon China, whether it be for medications or for steel or anything else, as a potential weakness that the Chinese Communist Party will exploit to their advantage when they decide decide to do so. Yeah, you would think nobody in the world would ever deny millions of Americans medications that keep them alive and cause their death. Well, yes, they would. They've actually threatened to do that.
Yes.
So we need a hard decoupling of the U.S. economy from the Chinese economy. And hopefully the China coronavirus, again, the China coronavirus will be the wake-up call that tells the world that you cannot depend upon the People's Republic of China.
Right. I think if the average American knew how many Pentagon officials in Washington went to work for China, directly or indirectly after retiring, they would be astounded. I've seen it. So, Mr. Mosher, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, increasingly